Hey guys, Brent Hull out in front of this Dilbeck in Dallas update today. Come join me. Okay guys, we're back in front of the Dilbeck over in Dallas in Highland Park, University Park. We're across from the Park City's church where we did the window restoration. So in context. So there's a book on Dilbeck, and last time I said it's kind of Mediterranean. It's really, what they're saying is it's a Texas ranch style, which I get. I see that. I think of kind of early Texas settlers, think of the Mission and Mexican piece of that, Spanish piece of that. And so you're seeing this low slung building, second story kind of pops out of it, but this big arch, these low walls that kind of go in front of it, but certainly that long linear line is kind of part of that tradition. So really pretty cool. It speaks to the inventiveness of Dilbeck and kind of how he thinks about stuff and how he does stuff. I want to just dig into a bunch of the details. We'll look around. A lot of Dilbeckian, if that's even a word, stuff going on in this house with the roof, with the porch, with the little cutouts here. So let's go check it out. In here, you see we've got a lot of protection done, right? Typical for our jobs, we're wrapping things in foam, we're taping them up, we've got our ram board down. Let's go in here because we've done a bunch of work in the kitchen. Now you remember there was a cabinets here, there's cabinets on the wall, the fireplace. We've kind of taken out all the stuff that wasn't kind of historic and wasn't right, and you'll see some of that in here where the walls have been opened up. Most of this was added later. This isn't part of the original, at least a lot of that work inside here, but you do get a little sense of like, look, this was wire lath and plaster. So this is in the 30s that this was built. Remember with Dilbeck, you're gonna see that Pecky cypress, which you see all over here, and then just the way he put his moldings and stuff together. We're kind of rebuilding that. Now, one of the things we're doing, and you'll see it here and down here, is there was a really ugly unit right here on the outside. It was an HVAC unit. You can see that we're digging way down underneath there, about 4 feet down. We're actually going to put this unit underneath the house horizontally. So we are digging out all of this earth and stuff in there so we can run new ducts, so we can get this thing fit in here without having this thing on the outside of the house, which was a joke. A lot of this cabinetry taken out, and now we're back down. So you're gonna step down again. A lot of step downs in a Dilbeck house. We're gonna have those here, stepping down into this area. And we believe that originally this was lower. So we think that this was kind of part of the outside, and the way this roof got so low right here, a lot of this was filled in and done. At least one step down. Now it's like 2 or 3 steps down. But we've got this lowered down. We had foundation work to do on the round column here. We also had a big drop in the foundation here. You can actually see where that old break was. But this had all fallen down. And so we ended up picking up this corner and picking up this. We had this beam in place here that we had to lift up. All of that's now stabilized. We're gonna redo this floor. And I remember if you talked to you about this fireplace was added later. You can tell because of the brick. They added this cast stone in here. We're taking the cast stone out. We're gonna go rounded arch, more like this look inside here, which I can't wait for. So one of the unique things about Dilbeck is that he was almost a set designer. You see the amount of character he's putting in here. And I don't know if we said in the last video, but one of the things we were trying to figure out was, was this originally stained? Was this originally painted? It turns out when we stripped it back and showed them what the stain could look like, we found out that these pieces are actually plaster. And so sometimes Dilbeck would carve those things. He actually made these out of plaster. So we'd have white and then brown. So we're actually playing around with different paint colors now. We're not going to go back with the stain. Makes me think that it originally was all painted if he had plaster in here, because Dilbeck could do anything. I mean, he was inventive, he was a crazy thinker. And so for him to make this out of wood would have been, I think, fairly easy. Okay, and so the fact that he made it out of plaster makes me think that it was probably more paint grade than it was stain grade. Some of the things we're gonna be capturing and keeping is obviously this kind of thing. I mean, this is going back to that set designer. Look at the rope that goes around these windows. Our moldings are actually ropes here, that they've got these chamfered edges. You see these carved beam details with the faux pegs, right? There's a peg that's gone. He did this a lot, where he would use faux pegs like this to kind of show off. We are fixing the lighting. We're going back with a light like this. Kidding. We're going back with different cans in areas where cans were originally. So back in here, you'll see these cans hanging out of the ceiling that are probably from the 70s or 80s. We're going back with really small cans that are going to almost blend right into the ceiling and still produce a good amount of light. Let's go upstairs because that's where most of the work is. So I don't know if you remember, but this was a pair of glass doors that opened onto this area. Originally, you went in this way. This was where the original opening is. If you come in on this side, you can see that, this kind of centers the opening. We've got the rope around this here. They've added these shelves later. So we're going to go back. We're going to take these wide plank boards, right, these tongue and groove boards, put those back across here, and this will read and act like the original space in the original room does. The windows that Dilbeck does are really unique. I mean, the fact that he's got these screens that go up in here and go into this place, and look what happens here. There's actually a hole here. Once that window goes in, how do you do this? Well, there's an arm that goes in here and cranks. So these windows will crank open and close, and you'll see a hole at the bottom of each of these windows where the crank stood. We'll rebuild those and get them working again. But this is how those windows are meant to function. This goes back to an original Dilbeck window, and he does a lot of his houses like that. So back in their master, we're now looking at kind of the inside of how Dilbeck built his house. Notice that we've got sheathing on the walls, okay, on the outside of the wall. So we got a tongue and groove board on the outside of his walls. There would have been a building paper there, but look what this is. I'm suspecting, okay, that Dilbeck was playing around with whether there's a fireplace that goes in here or not. And so to see the brick of the fireplace going up here and to see these different elements coming in here makes me think that the inventive, creative Dilbeck was thinking about how to make this work and how to make this fireplace effective. But really, you're seeing these inside walls. You'll see things like this. Okay, that shows you where that original lath and plaster was. There's even some burn marks on here. So all kinds of things of question marks of exactly what was going on, but still really good construction quality, still really inventive design. Pretty cool. One of the things that's crazy about Dilbeck is just all the different things he would try. If this is this kind of early Texas ranch, I don't really know if there's a lion part of that kind of Texas ranch. That's where you see that European piece of it. And so exactly what were the architectural styles he was playing with? Is it Spanish? Is it Texas ranch? Kind of what was he thinking here? But when he has the half logs that are cut here that are supporting the ceiling, that certainly captures that Texas ranch feel. This gate is just magical in my mind. One, it's an operating gate that a car can drive through, but it's also a walking gate so that you can have this section of it that walks and this section of it that opens up for a car. So him mixing all of these different things together is kind of the magic of what he does. All quirky, all different. The way the brick kind of breaks out from the wall, almost like it was put up as kind of rubbish or something like that. Again, interesting. I mean, look at this brick right here. I mean, it's practically falling out, right? What was he thinking there? What kind of story is he trying to evoke here for us that this wall is put together like this? And so I think it's fun. I think it makes it more interesting. That's why it's a Dilbeck. If you've seen my videos on fixing those houses, I just did a Mediterranean recently, and I put a lattice piece in there, right? And so this is that Spanish tradition where they would actually have in these walls these areas where the wind and the air could move through the house. And so here's an example of him putting in one. Here again, that mixing of that Texas ranch and kind of Spanish architecture together, but that's what he's doing there. Notice the Dutch door, kind of an early type of door. One of the things that happened here is this road, the homeowner did this with the landscape architect, but we had tremendous water problems on this house. And all of this fell into this property, and water was just coming like Niagara Falls into the basement. We had to get that fixed. So this got completely laid and redone. It now drains out to the front of the street. What's going to ultimately happen is we're going to have this driveway continue up into here, okay, up into this edge here. We're going to kind of recapture their backyard here. Now looking at the back of this structure, looking back, we're going to have something that's pretty pretty special back here. One, this stair going up to that landing and that porch, but even looking back this way, this is where they can park the cars and, you know, kind of travel in and out. But it's a unique way of kind of having a backyard, especially with that back stair. I showed you earlier how we are digging up all that dirt from the floor to put in the horizontal HVAC unit. There it is. When you dig up dirt, it's always kind of ends up being bigger than the space it was coming from. But that's a lot of dirt that we've moved to make access for that horizontal unit that's going to go into the house. And if you look at that old unit on the side there, you'll realize why we're trying to get rid of it. It's not very energy efficient. You're basically making the cold air on the outside of your house. And so, you know, it gets to 110 degrees here in Texas. You don't want to do that. So anyway, the windows are unique with this Dilbeck house. Now, a lot of Dilbeck houses have these windows that have these horizontal bars in there. Now, in the 1950s, in ranch style houses, you see those horizontal bars in there. They're pushing that horizontal nature of those ranch style houses. In the French tradition though, you see windows with these horizontal bars without a vertical bar. They go through there, you see this kind of window. So I'd look at it as being French-y, okay, French-esque. You also notice that these are casements, okay? They're not double hungs, although there is a double hung on the front side like this, but these are casement windows that open and close. If this wasn't originally an outdoor porch, it would make sense that you'd have windows that operate like that. But look at this style here, it's there, it's up here on the original part of the house, right? And so, again, an interesting twist that Dilbeck puts together, but I know these are newer, okay, maybe then when this was restored in the 70s or 80s, because they're mahogany, and it's typically, you don't see mahogany that early in a Dilbeck house, and so we think they're added later, but definitely within that Dilbeck style, that in that tradition. It's interesting, it's beautiful, it's kind of fun to check out. Dilbecks are special. This is our 4th or 5th Dilbeck that we've worked on. Seeing the story, the narrative, I always talk about, let's talk about the narrative of the story. Talk about subplots and crazy plot twists. I mean, Dilbeck really does that in such an interesting, creative way that they're fun houses to live in. And so each time you walk up to that front door with that kind of almost hidden front door, every time you look at the beam ceilings, look at the pegging, look at the different things he was doing, it evokes a time and a place that's really special, that's hard to do, and Dilbeck did it as well as anybody I know. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.